All right, welcome back everyone to the Two-Stroke Turbo channel, where we work on little unique cars all the time. At least we try. I mean, there's so many of them here in Portland, Oregon. We're very blessed. We have a climate that is conducive to cars not rusting out. This van has been on my radar for some time. We just did its first maiden voyage the other night when it was warm and dry. It's now raining and cold again. And we found a few hiccups, a few problems, a few kinks we gotta get out of this thing. One is, when I brought it back to the shop the next morning, this wheel cylinder started leaking, which is crazy because it's all supposed to be rebuilt. I stamped my approval on there. So you can see the wheel cylinder leaked, got the shoes all wet, got the inside of the aluminum fin drum all wet. It doesn't do any good for anybody. Just this side, not the other side, which is crazy. So I took it apart, took the pistons out, polished the bore. There was a little bit of rust on the bore, no pitting. And I want to show you something. So it's gonna be kind of hard to see. Let me put the light on here. These seals right here are the ones that I replaced that are supposed to be the right ones. These two on the left were created by a club member, and you can see the lip seals are a little more firm, and I knew that. They conform to bores that may have been bored out or sanded or honed, and I think that's the problem. Is these seals had just the original NOS kits have just slumped or fallen. It's got like a fold in one side here, so the fluid was going past. Shouldn't go past these seals. So I'm confident that we have the leak fixed. I hope I didn't drain the master cylinder and have to rebleed all the brakes. That is a concern. These things don't hold a lot, and it's hard to put new seals on there without the fluid coming out. And oh, you know what I'm saying. It's kind of like doing an operation when the patient's still bleeding. So anyhow, we lost a little fluid. We're going to fill it up again. We're going to actually sand the inside of these drums. They're very smooth. See the polish on there? I've cleaned it up, but it needs to have a little bit of a hash or cross hatch on there to keep the shoes from squawking. So we're going to take a Dremel or something and sand that with like 120 or 220 and get that roughed up just a little bit. I might do that on the other side as well. Otherwise, we will have squealing brakes, and that's no fun either. So some tips and tricks for you. We do have tie rod ends we're going to be putting on this van, front tie rod ends for the steering, and that will be the next segment of this video. But for now, we're going to fill the fluid reservoir, bleed the brakes, get the brakes back to where they should be, clean up the drums, clean up the shoes, and hopefully we got something. Okay, so we got this one all back together with new seals, all cleaned up. I knocked the glaze off the drum, and I did that with my drill and just a little sanding drum for the drum, and I'll do that with this one. I'll show you how to do that. You just simply put the drum into a position that you can use the drum on, and you want to knock the glaze off. So basically you're roughing it up just to give it a little crosshatch, and what that does is that allows the shoes to kind of bed in there and not squeal. So you can see I've got the wheel off of this side as well, and I thought, well, if the other side was leaking, what are the chances this side's leaking? And sure enough, it's wet inside those boots. So I am going to do the same thing I did on the other side. I haven't drained the whole system. I filled up the reservoir. That's very important. This hasn't gotten wet yet, but it's going to. So I'm going to put in my super duper seals that have just a little bit more spread on the lip to combat. I think these have just been bored too many times or honed. They're aluminum with steel pistons. So let's do that. Okay, and just like that, we got our wheels back on. They spin nice and free. They don't drag. The brakes work good, but I noticed we don't have any brake lights. And on a Subaru 360, we have a pressure switch in line about a foot away from the master cylinder. I'm doing some testing here. The switch is good, the wires are good, but the connections are bad. They're all rusted, so I've got to fix that. Can't not have brake lights. All right, so we got our new brake light switch in here. It's just a universal one. I've got to make some new connections, but I have tested it. It works. We now have brake lights. Now we're moving on to another final bit, and that is the tie rod end. If you look here, and I take my hand on the tire, and I just push it in and out. See all the play that's in there? That thing is just slopping around like crazy. It's pretty typical on the van. I don't know why, but it multiplies the steering effect. So I'm going to try it on this side too. Oh yeah, this one's really bad. So I'm just taking my hand and I'm moving the tire in and out. Oh, a couple inches. So let's put some new tie rods on, and that'll take care of that. We can do a little alignment, and then we might be able to drive it again. See if it goes a little better this time. Okay, so once you take the Subaru 360 old beaten tie rod end out, you have the new one here, which is actually for a BMW, and the shank right here my finger is touching is a little bigger. So you've got to open up just a touch with your die grinder or a reamer and create just a little bigger taper so you can get that to go in there. Just be careful and don't overdo it. Otherwise, it's a direct fit part, and there are no other tie rod ends available. So BMW 530, 3 Series, I guess they come with either yellow or blue. They come with a lock nut versus a castle nut, and they work great. Let's put it on. Okay, so we have our new tie rod ends on. Let me turn this light off. And we have no play. I'm pulling and pushing, and you can see that tie rod is rock solid. There is a little bit of play in the steering rack right there, but I'm not going to fix that. But tie rod ends are good, so this thing should be a good driver. So we got our brake light switch on. We have tie rod ends. We got the rear wheel cylinders bled and fixed. I think it's time for a drive. Let's get this cutie pie down. See if we can drive it. Okay, so we've got our cutie pie little van outside the shop. We got our cutie pie little puppy dog waiting to go for a ride, but it is starting to pour down rain, and I think it's really going to come down. We've had lightning and thunder. I don't think you guys are going to get a drive in this tonight. I just don't want to risk a customer's car in the rain. These things melt, and it's not me, but it's the other drivers that can't see me and slip and slide, and I think I'm going to drive something safely. I'm going to set the timing, and we'll catch up to you next sunny day, which will probably be Monday. It's 5 o'clock Friday night. It's time to go home. Stella, what do you think? Come here. You want to say goodbye to all the YouTube folk? They're nice people. Oh, you're going to come over here and get pet. Oh, look at you. So happy. Oh, that's my sweet puppy. All right, you guys have a good weekend.